Will your current resume actually land you the interview? We're here today with practical, actionable tips to help you create a standout resume. Welcome to Shift. We're a career and job search series bi-weekly where we bring on great guests to help you become future ready. Let's just give some context. Resumes can be a very stressful thing for people. Many students have many questions, especially with convocation. You're launching yourself into the world looking for jobs, or you're still a student looking for a part-time job. Why is a resume important? Well, it gives you a chance to start thinking about your stories and how you can talk about yourself, which is ultimately going to help you with an interview. Just a couple of tips before I go to our first question here, is that a resume should be between 1 and 2 pages. A CV, which is a more academic type of resume, which we aren't going to talk about today, is generally longer, but for the purpose of just a general job search, we recommend 1 to 2 pages. Also, one thing that I see frequently with students is they put I in their statement. So make sure you never put I, just go straight into an action verb, like managed the bookstore, for instance. Okay, so I see question. Sukhdip, this one's for you to start. What should someone, that's what it says, what should someone do first when preparing their resume for a job? What's the first thing that they should think about?
That is a really good question, Danielle. So the best advice to give is to think like the employer. But where most of us are still students and we don't have the experience to think like the employer or the recruiter. So I'm going to give you an example. All of us have been through this. Let's say we need to get some products and services, and we go on Google and we see all these links to different websites, and we go on them. Think of it, when you are looking for that product or service, will you go around their whole website looking for that small snippet that says they have that specific product or service? I don't think so. So what we normally look for is that if it's written on their main page, or if there's a quick link to the page that shows the product or service. The same way, recruiters typically take 6 to 10 seconds to look at the resumes. So there could be 5 people applying for that job. There could be 500 or even 100, right? Exactly. So
yeah,
it's better
all this to look through.
So it's better to make your job application, your resume, mirror the job posting. So it's targeted towards what the employer is looking for. So they can easily see that this person has what we're looking for. What if they're looking for someone who has experience doing teamwork, and it shows on your resume you have experience with teamwork? They will say, wait, we might just consider this person for a job interview.
Yeah, that's great advice. I think that's the biggest takeaway for anyone watching this, is really to step into the employer's mindset and think about what if you were the employer, would be looking for, and really, really look at the job posting and try and match it. One of the recommendations that I give people when they don't know how to begin doing that, you can do a couple things. For instance, you could take the job posting and just put it in one column, and then look at your experience and try and put it in the next column. So you can think about what you did that connected to what they're requesting. Or you could just take line by line from the job posting and add your experience. And sometimes in doing that, you think of things that you didn't think of before. So I'm seeing lots of questions. Have you seen them?
Yeah, I'm seeing questions coming up now.
Yeah. Okay. Do you want to take one? Do you see one of them? Do you want to take one?
One just passed upwards. I think it was, what should someone do if they have no experience?
Ah, yes. What if they don't have an experience that matches the job posting? Great question. What do you think, Sukhdip?
Yes, that is a common question we get when students come in for consultations. The thing is that people will say, we don't have any experience. Turns out they may not have work experience, but they do have they could have experience within their classes, such as working on a group project, or if they're sometimes for economics majors or comp sci majors, they need experience for the job working with a certain software. They may have not done it at a job, but they've used it extensively in a course, which counts as experience, right? Another instance I've seen is that we had this one individual who came in and wanted to apply for a job at Lululemon, right? So this person worked for a construction company, and this person is like, that experience at the construction company is irrelevant to Lululemon. So I probed for more information. What were you doing at the construction site? And it turns out one of the tasks at Lululemon were to ensure COVID-19 guidelines were being followed on the retail sales floor. It turns out that this individual was providing orientations to construction workers on the job site to ensure that guidelines were followed on the site and they ensured social distancing. So we were able to transfer the job application at Lululemon, right? That individual never imagined this.
That's why really analyzing your experience and really thinking about how it might coincide with what the job posting is asking.
Yeah.
And so what about if somebody doesn't have work experience, Sukhdip? What do you suggest to people who have no outside work experience yet? So a lot of students haven't been doing much in the way of jobs yet, work paid jobs. So what should they do?
They can also put on their volunteer experiences, right? Maybe they volunteered on campus, right? Anywhere. Again, going back to
Right,
the coursework experience, right? And they can there's always transferable skills from those experiences which can go towards applying for the job. So Danielle, would you like to add?
So you might have a class project, right? Where you led the team. You might have seen it through all kinds of stages. And then you actually can say that you have some project management experience or some team leadership experience. There may be software that you used in a class that you haven't used in the job, but you actually know how to use that software, and it's something that the employer is looking for. You can put that on. You might have been part of a club, organized events for students. All these things count as experience. So don't discount who you are or what you've done wherever it's come from. And then the other thing I would say is organizing your resume in a way that speaks most effectively to the job posting. So I'm going to try and show you a hard copy example. This is just this is not my resume, but it's got my name on it. It's just a mock sample resume. So a couple things you can do if you feel that your work experience, or say your volunteer experience, is more related to the job posting than your work experience. You can make sections. So for instance, in this resume, there is a section that says project management experience. And then there's another section that says relationship management experience. And then what you do is you just put in reverse chronological order. That means from the most recent backwards, what you have in your history, whether it's volunteer or work experience, related. And so you try on the first page especially to put what the recruiter in that 6 to 10 seconds would want to see. So if it's project manager type work, put your project management experience on the first page in a section like that. The other thing you can do is create kind of a top profile section that has a few bullet points. And that really zeroes in on what you want someone to know about you. So you can kind of take your entire experience and encapsulate it. So for instance, let's say you've done little bits of student advising here and there, but put together you have 3 years experience. You can say 3 years experience, student advising and coaching. And that is actually true, even though it wasn't 3 consecutive years. So those are some recommendations for how to actually set up your resume. So I saw another question that's a really important one. What if I'm an international student with no Canadian experience? What do I put on my resume? So that's yet another no experience scenario that can be quite challenging. So what do you recommend, Sukhdip?
Again, that's a very common question we get from international students, right? So again,
Yeah.
if those experiences starting off, if they're relevant, please put them on your resume, right? Some individuals will say, what if I speak a different language and uh, my employer won't like it? Or what if they only want Canadian experience? Well, you don't know what the employer is looking for. That could be the X factor that goes into getting you the job, right? The employer could be looking for someone who speaks a different language, right? Or they could be looking for someone who has experience of living in different places. Maybe they want to do international business. Maybe they want to connect with a certain community, right? You never know, right? So you have to what you have to bring to the table as an international student is an asset, not a burden, right? So it again, put those experiences on there. If you speak a different language, please put it on there.
Yes. Good, all great points. So I find a lot of international students really discount who they are. And what I would love for all the international students out there listening is that you really take away that you are an immense asset to an employer. Already you've shown incredible courage, adaptability, creativity, resourcefulness, and even coming to another country as a student, sometimes having to learn and study in another language. All those things are incredible qualities that you can bring to the workplace. So be proud of those. And all the global and cultural knowledge that you bring, studies have proven that all of this diversity in a workplace actually increases innovation and creativity. So these are things to be proud of and to really, let shine. So that's what we have to say to both of you, to the international students out there. I did see a question about references. Should you put references on a resume? Standard practice now is no. It's pretty obvious that you're going to be asked for resumes, and so probably you're going to have them. So you can just submit them when you're asked or after the first interview. Okay, what do we have here?
I saw a question about education,
Okay, great.
which is another common question, right? So the question was whether you put your education on the top of the resume or the bottom of the resume. It all depends, right? So
Yeah.
if the job posting explicitly states that they require a university degree or some certain type of education, put it on the top of your resume, right? If it's irrelevant and they don't require a degree or a certain education credential, put it on the bottom of your resume. But there are some certain cases. From what I remember, there was this one student who wanted to apply for a job to do something with Indigenous outreach. Turns out the person didn't have any experience working with Indigenous people, but they had a degree in First Nation studies. So that person put that degree on top of the resume to show that they had the credentials for that job posting. Right. Another experience is a personal experience. So I've had this certification since I was 16 years old, and I come from a background in commercial refrigeration. So we work with CFC and HFC gases, and I have a certificate that I acquired before starting work was about ozone depletion, right? That certificate means a lot to me, but if I'm going to apply for a job, let's say in public policy, and public policy I'm sure doesn't require that certification, I don't put it on the job application. I don't put it on my resume when I'm applying for that job because it's completely irrelevant.
Right. So back to our main point is think about the job. So I'm seeing another question. I've been applying for job after job and getting no response. What should I do with my resume? What do you think?
Yes. That is another very common question we get, right? So what we say is that, again, going back to the website example I give, right? Show the transferable skills on the resume, mirror the job posting, right? So if they're looking for, it's not about fabricating information, it's about showing what you have, presenting your information in a way that mirrors the job posting. For example, if they're looking for someone who has experience with working in a certain software, look for where you have experience with working with that software and put it on your resume, right? By creating
So the other
special statements.
one is about creating strong bullet points. Sorry, there's a lag. I interrupted you. Sorry about that, Sukhdip.
That's all right.
Yeah, so one of the other things we recommend is that you create really strong bullet points. So we're going to have you guys out there participate in a little exercise if you want. So a strong bullet point is that comes in that experience section, like really talking solidly about what you did and what the result was. So we have a kind of formula that you can think of: what and so what. So what you do, you use action verbs. And on our website at Career and Volunteer Services, we have a page that can give you action verbs to help you think about how to describe yourself in a really creative and active manner. And then you think about, well, what was the result of that? Who benefited? How did they benefit? Did I increase sales? How many people did I plan an event for? Any numbers or results or the reason you might have done it, something that fleshes it out. The reason for this is because it, one, tells the employer that this is for real, that you really did do this, much more likely to be believable if you give a tangible example, as opposed to I planned events. And the other is that it starts telling us a little bit about you and shows that you can actually do the job. So, Sukhdip, do you have an example? Say I was saying provided advising for students. How might you change that into a more solid bullet point?
Okay, so right now that is a bullet point, right? But it's very basic. It really doesn't show much substance, right? So it really doesn't show how you affected maybe the employer, the workplace, and what was the result of that, right? So advise students, it just shows what you did. So a better way to put it would be advised 20 students a month on cover letter, resume, and LinkedIn, resulting in many students achieving their desired careers.
That's a great on the spot sentence. Right. That's really good. So it really talks about numbers and results. So let's throw this out to you guys in the chat. Say you wanted to improve a sentence. It was something you had done, and you started off in your resume saying planned events. In the chat, just throw in some sample improved bullet points of what you might do with, instead of saying planned events, what you might actually say. So we'll leave it to you to put some of these in the chats, and we'll move on to the next topic, and we'll be watching for those. So the other thing that I wanted to just touch briefly on is something that a lot of students don't know about. It's relatively new to the resume world, and that's applicant tracking systems. So much of what we've already talked about is very applicable to this scenario. But an applicant tracking system is when a automated system is looking at your resume, taking the job posting and looking for matching keywords to make sure that you're actually eligible for the job. This is before it ever lands in a human's lap. Often this is bigger companies that use these applicant tracking systems, but you never know. Even within the Canadian government, for instance, Statistics Canada uses one. The Public Service Commission doesn't. So I always recommend you operating on the idea that you actually are being tracked by a tracking system, because you don't want your resume to be rejected. So some of the basics to know about as far as applicant tracking systems are really simple design elements. So you should be using really simple common fonts, no headers or footers, no tables, no columns. These things can cause this applicant tracking systems that's parsing your resume to reject your resume, so it never even gets to a human. The other thing is keywords, which Sukhdip mentioned previously, and that's looking for common industry words that are used in the job posting that you can mirror in your resume. So there's a great tool called jobscan.co. We'll put it in the chat, jobscan.co, not .com, where you get 5 free when you sign up, 2 free per month. And you can cut and paste the job posting in one column, cut and paste your resume in the other column, and then you click on scan, and it'll do a scan and a little report from you. And it'll say your resume matches this job posting by about 30%. And it'll tell you the keywords that are mentioned quite often in the job posting, as well as some other comments. So this is a good way to start getting your head around that matching the job posting, both for the human that will see it, but possibly for the applicant tracking system that will see it before. And again, you can come see us, you know, for really personalized attention on your resume. But I would really recommend you run your resume with a job posting through JobScan. It's a great tool, and it really starts helping you get your head around how to think from the other side. So, Sukhdip, I have one last question for you, and that is, what is the best way, even better than the keywords and JobScan, to bypass the applicant tracking systems and land an interview?
Well, the thing is that the best way to bypass an applicant tracking system and land an interview has nothing to do with a resume. You may be wondering, why is that? Right? So I have a story. This happened, I think, 2 weeks ago, and I had a friend who wanted to apply for a marketing position at Coca-Cola. Turns out he started going through people, professionals. I was a mutual connection with one of the professionals. So I ended up introducing my friend and that professional over LinkedIn because I knew the professional, and turns out they had set up a Zoom interview with each other. And that resulted in that professional becoming a reference for my friend. So the thing to take away is that by reaching out to an actual human being, you turn into a human that the company is more likely to hire, that they'll be excited to meet instead of just a piece of paper going through a machine, right? So this puts you into an advantage position compared to the rest of the applicants.
Yes. So this goes back to some of the other episodes in our series that I would recommend everyone out there watch on networking or using LinkedIn, is, you know, really understanding the power of human connection and how the importance of a resume goes down when a human actually knows you. So then you don't have to worry as much about did the resume pass through this system and making yourself non-anonymous. I did see a question. We were getting so many great questions here in the chat about a photo. So photos on resumes in many countries are common. In North America, not as common. And so generally it's recommended not. They can always go to your LinkedIn profile. Your photo will be there. And also there are issues at times with photos passing through the applicant tracking system again. So the more simple your resume can be, the better. The one thing I would say that a lot of people get very upset naturally and disappointed by the fact that they're going to have to create a very simple, plain resume to pass through this system. But you can keep your beautiful resume that you've designed to get noticed on Adobe or however you've done it, to send by email to a human. So if you can really track down who is the human, who is the hiring manager of this job, in addition to applying online, you can always email and say, I'm attaching my resume and cover letter and wanted to make sure this landed in a human's lap. So I would always recommend that no matter what job you're looking for, that you try and make a human connection. And in that case, then you don't need to worry so much about this tracking system, and you can attach a PDF of a beautiful resume. So we're coming to the end of our time.
I see some really good impact statements.
Oh,
Sorry to cut you
great.
off.
Yeah,
So
great.
first of all, one individual asked this question, so action plus quantity plus result. So the thing is, if you have a quantity associated with what you did, then I'd say you can put in the quantity. If you don't, then it's the action and what was the effect of that, right? And then I see another impact statement example someone gave. So organize events to engage the club's audience, then increase the attendance by 20%.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, that is a good impact statement right there, because it shows what they did and what the effect of it was. And it did show a number because they had a number in there, right? But if you don't, then you don't include any numbers.
And I see another one, organized a cultural event for International Mother Language Day, working with volunteers to do an educational skit. Great, you guys. This is so good. I'm glad organized events to engage the club's audience that increased attendance by 20%. Fantastic. Did you see any other questions before we start wrapping up that I've missed?
I did see this question, I guess. I'd give this one to you. So if I do my co-op back in my home country, how will this affect me to get future co-ops or full-time jobs?
Yeah, so that's a personalized situation. I would
Yeah.
recommend that you make an appointment with one of our career educators. Um, and then we can help you, individually. So you just need to email careers@sfu.ca to make a one-on-one appointment. And I and Sukhdip and a great team are available to work with you one-on-one on your situation, on your trying to figure out how best to position your co-op or previous work experience, etc. Any other questions we see?
I can't see any, but Danielle, if you see
Okay,
any.
so we've come to the end of our time. This half hour goes so quickly. So Sukhdip, what would you say are the your top tip on creating a standout resume as we end our chat?
Okay, so first of all, I guess mirroring the job posting. So showing the relevant experiences to your potential employer so they can easily consider you for an interview.
Right.
So my second tip would be creating strong impact statements. Again, instead of just telling what you did, show what was the effect of that and how it improved things at the workplace or maybe resulted in an increase in sales. And then my third tip, it's much better to reach out to a human being so that your potential employer will see you as a human being that they would be excited to work with. So those are my top 3 tips.
Great 3 tips. I echo them. So it's been wonderful to share this space with you, Sukhdip. Thank you for that.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
For everyone out there who has more questions about resume or anything career and job search related, we are here for you. You can book to see a career peer like Sukhdip for resumes, cover letters, and LinkedIn help, as well as coming to see career educators like myself and my great team for anything career and job search related, from everything from I have no clue what to do to I don't know how to get a job to I don't know, I feel scared networking, whatever it is. So please follow us at sfu.career on Instagram. That's our Instagram page, sfu.career. You can email careers@sfu.ca for an appointment. And check out our whole series on SFU Central IGTV. We've got great interviews with wonderful guests on volunteering, networking, LinkedIn, and now resume. So we're going to take a short break and we'll be back in January. So thank you so much for joining us and for really participating. We hope we gave you a lot of solid takeaways that you can go to your next steps with. And thank you, Sukhdip. And we'll see you all soon. Bye.
Bye.